Alright, so this is another video showing some of the new sound capabilities coming to ProffieOS7. So I have a bunch of these videos that I'm shooting over couple days, and I'll probably group them together in a playlist. So definitely check them all out because there's just too much to cover in one video. But so the biggest change, or one of the biggest changes coming to ProffieOS7 that I've been working on with Frederick for a while now, is the ability for styles to actually control the sound. So up until now, your presets are a font that you set in your config file and then a style code that you put there. And technically, while they work together to form the preset, the font does its thing, the style does its thing. And what that means is you can have all these crazy visual effects. We can have all these interactive controls that change how the visual effects work. But the sound font was always going to just play its thing. Now, obviously, you have clashes. If you clash the blade, you get a clash sound. If you hit the blast button, you get a blast sound. If you do lockup, you get a lockup sound. But those sounds are straightforward, and they're set up for the font. Well, now the ProffieOS7, we've actually made it so the style code can interact and actually control the sounds. And what that means is when we trigger an animation on the Saber through any means, so through an effect, through a button press, or through all the interactive controls that were established in OS 6, plus a bunch of new ones for OS 7, we can now also have it affect how the font works. Now there's several new mechanisms, including a new alt font capability. There's going to be a bunch of documentation on it. It's not as scary as it sounds, but it is a new way to set up fonts. And it's going to be for both users and font makers. So font makers now, you can actually start thinking out beyond just a normal, straightforward, linear font. You can actually create fonts that are going to be able to interact with the styles that you want. So if you have a font that you're trying to create, like after a video game where certain things happen and you want to have the sounds react to it, this is the tool for you, and this is the way we do it. So this is a kind of a modified Crucible Blade. So it's based on the Doom Crucible Blade, but obviously it's a little bit different. But the way this specific style works is I can actually charge up my effect by pointing downward, and it's meant to be in the game. You could dip into the fire pool and then you get the power of the Crucible. But so this is a normal blue blade. You'll hear your hum, all right, your swing, all the other sounds. But now when I point straight down, it's actually going to imbue this blade with flames for the Crucible, and it's going to change the fonts and the sounds. Now how it works is through the new alt font capability. The style code, when we trigger that interactive control of pointing down, not only changes the visual effect, it also changes the alt font. So I pointed down, I've now got a fire blade, and I've also got fire sounds. And then how I made this Crucible Blade is if you clash it 3 times, it loses its power, and it's going to revert from this fire blade visual effect and sound effect back to its original. And now I wore out my Crucible, but I can recharge it. So this is the interactive control of the style is actually what's doing the visual and the audio change. So now when I point down again, and we can do any animations you want, and we can also trigger the changes in the sounds to happen at different points in the animation. So this one's just set up that as soon as I point it down, it turns to a fire, and it starts the fire sound. And what that does is it's actually changing all the sound files. So it's changing my hum, my swing, my in, my out. So if I retract, if I ignite, all those sounds are now my fire sounds. Same thing with your clashes. But now I'll go burn through back to my regular. So listen to clash. Now I'm back. My swings, my retraction, my ignition, my clashes, they're all back to the original version of the font. So the ability for the style code to actually interact with the font and change the sounds and also trigger sounds, which is a whole other video, just takes what we're able to do with Proffie to the next level. And since it's style code, you can have every preset work completely differently. We're not dependent on a prop file. We're not dependent on specific control within a specific prop doing specific sounds. The style code itself is running when the sounds change and what sounds they change to, as well as what sounds are used when. And it's almost, we're in the realm now of building visual and audio fix together. And that's going to be huge for both what we can do with the Saber, but also what font makers are going to be able to do. So I know font makers are going to have a real interest in this, particularly if if you're thinking, you know, video games, you're thinking all that other stuff, where you have certain powers and abilities that get, you know, activated. In the past, we could mimic, in, you know, OS4 even, we could mimic visual effects, but we could never do the sound. And now, OS7, we can do VFX and sound effects and tie them together like never before. So ProffieOS7 is a new stratosphere unto itself, and I can't wait for you guys to see everything. So check out all the videos that I'm putting together, and definitely as the documentation and as all the announcements for OS7 come out, you're going to want to read up, because there's so much more we can do. So I know you guys are enjoying this.